The council hit the button. Too late. Humans were departed before it began, Narration. The great chamber hung in the blackness above Xylos Prime, a silver ring spinning slowly against the stars. Inside, the air hummed with tension. Delegates from 12 starfaring species sat in their curved seats, their faces lit by soft blue panels. Some had scales, others fur. A few wore breathing masks, but all shared the same unease. For the first time in 300 years of peace, the Galactic Concordance Council faced a crisis it could not name. It began with silence. Humanity, once loud and restless, had gone quiet. Not just quiet, gone. Every human colony from Proxima B to Tau Ceti Station had stopped transmitting. No trade requests, no scientific updates, not even a single automated weather report from Earth. At first, the Council assumed a system-wide failure. Then came the scout reports. Empty ships drifted in stable orbits. Farms on Mars still grew wheat under artificial suns, but no one harvested it. A child's toy floated near the window of a nursery on Luna, spinning slowly in zero gravity. Councillor Vrel of the Cathari stood at the central podium, his voice low and sharp. "This is not an accident," he said. "Humans do not vanish. They expand. They argue. They build too fast and break things, but they do not disappear without a trace." His species had fought humans once long ago in the border wars near Sirius. They remembered the fire in human eyes, the stubborn refusal to yield even when outnumbered 10-1. To Vrel, silence was more frightening than war. Across the chamber, Delegate Elira of the gentle Myron leaned forward. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on water. "Perhaps they chose to leave," she suggested. "Not all species measure progress by conquest. Maybe they found another path," Vrel scoffed. "A path to where? Their ships are still docked. Their cities still lit. You do not abandon your home and leave the lights on." The debate raged for hours. Some feared a trap. Others whispered of transcendence, rumors that humans had unlocked something beyond physical form. But the Concordance had rules. Protocol 7 required immediate quarantine of any species showing sudden, unexplained behavioral shifts. Protocol 9 allowed for full system isolation if deemed a threat. And then there was Omega, the last resort never used, designed to erase a civilization before it could become a danger to the whole galaxy. No one wanted to speak its name. Just as the Council prepared to vote on quarantine, a signal cut through the static. It came from Sol System, Earth's home star. Not a burst, not a coded alert, just a clean, calm transmission on every open frequency. The chamber fell silent as the message played. "This is Daniel Hayes," said a human voice, calm and tired, like a man who had carried a heavy weight for too long. "We are leaving now." "Not running, not hiding, just moving on. We tried to explain before, but you were not ready to listen. So we leave this behind as a gift and a warning. The stars are not for conquering. They are for becoming." A pause. Then softer. "We hope you find your own way." Coordinates follow. Use them wisely. The transmission ended. On every screen, a set of numbers blinked once, then vanished. Not galactic coordinates, not even stellar. They pointed inward, toward the dense, swirling heart of the Milky Way where no ship had ever returned. Confusion spread like a ripple. What did it mean? Was it a ruse? A final taunt? Or something else entirely? Vrel slammed his fist on the podium. "This is exactly what I feared. They are not gone. They are preparing something. That signal is bait. We must activate Protocol 9 immediately. Seal off Sol System. Burn every jump gate leading there." Elira shook her head. "Or it is a farewell. A gift," as he said. Why would they warn us if they meant harm? The Council split. The Zorath, a warlike species with armored hides and a history of preemptive strikes, sided with Vrel. The Myron, the gentle Lumen, and the scholarly Trell supported Elira. Deadlock. In the end, the Council voted not for action but for observation. A small stealth scout ship would be sent to human space, unarmed, undetectable, with orders to watch and report. No contact, no interference, just eyes in the dark. As the session ended, Vrel lingered in the empty chamber. He stared out the curved window at the distant pinprick of Sul, barely visible among the stars. He thought of the human wars, the way they rebuilt cities from ashes, the songs they broadcast into the void just to say, "We are here." And now, nothing. He did not trust silence. Back on Earth, oceans still rolled. Wind still swept through empty streets. In a quiet room in Geneva, a coffee cup sat on a desk, half full, steam long gone. On the wall, a digital calendar blinked. October 12th, 2247, the last day anyone had marked as today. The scout ship Auriga launched 3 days later from a hidden dock on Xylos. Prime, aboard were 2 young officers, Carabel, a sharp-eyed pilot with a reputation for calm under pressure, and Luis Ortiz, a quiet engineer who preferred machines to people. Their orders were clear: go to Sol system, observe, return, do not engage. As the Auriga slipped into fold space, the council debated again. Vrel pushed harder for Omega. Others resisted. The fear grew, fed by uncertainty. What if humans were evolving into something unstoppable? What if they were already watching from beyond the stars? No one noticed the countdown ticking in the background. Because while the council argued, while scouts flew, while fear spread like a virus through the halls of power, humanity was already gone. Not in ships, not in cryopods, not even in memory. They had stepped out of time itself, leaving behind only echoes and an empty cradle spinning in the sun. And the button, the great, terrible Omega button, still sat untouched. For now, the council hit the button too late. Humans were departed before it began. Part 2. The scout ship Auriga dropped out of fold space near the edge of the Sol system, its engines humming down to a whisper. Inside, Carabel unstrapped from her pilot's chair and floated toward the main viewport. Earth hung in the distance, blue and white, wrapped in soft clouds. It looked peaceful, normal. But Kara knew better. She had read the reports. No signals, no responses, not even a single drone patrolling near the moon. Everything was off, dead. Yet the planet still turned. The sun still rose, and the lights in cities like New York and Tokyo still flickered on at dusk, as if waiting for people who would never come home. Luis Ortiz checked the sensors from the rear station. All systems quiet, he said. No ships, no power spikes. Atmosphere stable. It's like everyone just stood up and walked out the door. Kara nodded. Then let's see what they left behind. The Auriga moved slowly toward Earth orbit. They passed a maintenance satellite, its solar panels still tracking the sun. A cargo tug drifted near the old International Space Station, tether lines dangling like forgotten threads. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. They docked at Geneva Orbital, one of humanity's oldest space hubs. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor lit by emergency strips. Kara stepped in first, her boots clicking on the metal floor. The air was stale but breathable. No alarms, no voices, just silence. In the command center, monitors displayed empty feeds from Earth's surface. One screen showed a park in London, trees swaying, birds flying, benches empty. Another showed a highway in California, cars parked neatly on the shoulder, doors open as if drivers had simply stepped out and vanished. Luis found a coffee mug on a desk. It was cold, but the liquid inside hadn't dried. This couldn't have been more than a few days ago, he murmured. Kara moved to a nearby terminal. She tapped the screen. It lit up instantly. Files, messages, schedules, all untouched. She opened a personal log labeled Elena M. The last entry read, "Saw the first bloom in the hydroponic garden today. Told Leo it looks like home. He laughed and said home is wherever we are. Maybe he's right. Tomorrow we join the others." Kara frowned. The others? They searched the station for hours. In the nursery wing, a child's drawing was taped to a window. Stick figures held hands beneath a bright yellow star. At the bottom, in careful letters, new home, no bodies, no signs of struggle, no panic, just departure. Back on the Auriga, they sent their findings to the council. The reply came fast: expand the search. Check Mars, check the outer colonies, find a pattern. Their next stop was Mars. The red planet loomed large as they approached. Human domes dotted the surface, glowing under the thin sky. They landed near Olympus Agri-Complex, the largest food production site in the system. Inside, rows of wheat grew under artificial suns. Robots moved slowly down the aisles, watering, trimming, harvesting, doing their jobs with no one to feed. Kara walked through the fields, her breath fogging her visor. She found a lunchbox on a bench, still sealed. A note inside read, "Don't forget your vitamins." "Mom," Luis checked the control room. Log showed the last human entry was October 12th, same as Earth, same hour. They all left at once. he said, voice tight. Not colony by colony, not ship by ship, everyone everywhere at the exact same moment. Kara stared at the wheat swaying in the artificial breeze. Why? Their journey took them next to Luna. The moon's research outposts were pristine. In one lab, a scientist's datapad lay open on a table, displaying a half-finished equation about quantum resonance. A jacket hung on the back of a chair. Coffee sat in a thermos, still warm to the touch. But the most unsettling find was in the children's wing of Tranquility Base. Toys floated gently in zero gravity. A music box played a soft lullaby on loop, and on the wall, written in chalk, "We're going to the stars." Don't be sad. Kara felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. This wasn't an evacuation. It wasn't a disaster. It was a choice. A calm, collective decision made by billions carried out without a single cry or crash. They moved outward, to the edge of human space. At Alpha Centauri, they found the skeleton of a massive ship, half-built, suspended in a dry dock. Its nameplate read Odyssey. It was meant to carry thousands to a new world. But the engines were cold. The crew quarters empty. Tools lay where workers had dropped them. Luis ran a hand along the hull. They were building this for years. Then one day, they just stopped. Kara looked up at the unfinished bridge. Maybe they didn't need it anymore. Back aboard the Auriga, they reviewed all their data. Every location. Every timestamp. Every abandoned object. The pattern was clear. Humanity had vanished not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. And they had done it with such precision that even their machines kept working, as if hoping their creators might return. Kara sat alone in the cockpit that night, watching Earth shrink behind them. She thought of the child's drawing, the note in the lunchbox, the music box on the moon. These weren't signs of fear. They were messages. Left behind for someone, maybe for them. She opened a private log on her personal pad. "If you're listening," she whispered, "why didn't you take us with you?" The ship drifted through silent space. No answer came, but as they passed Jupiter, sensors picked up a faint signal, not from any station, but from deep within the planet's magnetic field. It was a harmonic tone, soft and steady, repeating every 30 seconds. Luis analyzed it. "It's not random," he said. "It matches the frequency from Daniel Hayes's farewell message." Kara's eyes widened. They left markers. More signals appeared as they traveled near Saturn's rings in the asteroid belt, even in the void between Neptune and the Kuiper Cliff. Each one pulsed the same tone. Like buoys in an ocean no one else could see. The humans hadn't just left. They had left a trail, and it pointed not outward but inward toward the center of the galaxy. Kara adjusted course. "We're not done yet." The Auriga turned toward the galactic core, following the song of the departed. Behind them, the empty cities of Earth spun on, lit by a sun that no longer had anyone to warm. And far away on Xylos Prime, the Council still argued, but the silence in human space grew deeper, because the humans were not coming back. They had already arrived somewhere else. The Council hit the button. Too late. Humans were departed before it began. Part 3 news of the Auriga's findings spread through the galactic concordance like a slow fire. Delegates gathered again in the silver chamber above Xylos Prime, but this time the air was thick with fear. Empty cities, abandoned ships, harmonic signals pointing toward the galactic core. None of it made sense, and that scared them most of all. Counselor Varel stood at the center again, his voice hard as stone. "They left markers," he said. "Not for us to follow, for something else to find, or for them to return." He slammed a data chip onto the podium. "Our analysts say those signals are not just tones, they are temporal signatures. They don't mark places. They mark moments." A murmur ran through the chamber. Temporal manipulation was forbidden by concordance law, only theoretical. No species had ever cracked time. But humans had always played with fire. Delegate Illyra rose slowly. "Or they are invitations," she said. "Maybe they found a way to step outside the cycle of war and decay. Maybe they left the path open for others." Vrel turned to her, eyes narrow. "And maybe they are waiting to come back as something we cannot fight. Something that does not bleed, does not sleep, does not negotiate. You speak of hope, Illyra. I speak of survival." The Zorath delegates growled in agreement. Their armored hides clicked as they shifted in their seats. They remembered how humans once held off 3 Zorath fleets with nothing but jury-rigged fighters and raw nerve. If humans had evolved beyond flesh, what would stop them from claiming the galaxy as their nursery? Behind closed doors, a secret meeting took place. Frel, the Zorath war leader Kor, and 2 others from fearful species gathered in a shielded room. On the table between them lay the activation key for the Omega Protocol. It was a failsafe built during the First Concordance Wars, a network of quantum detonators hidden in every major human-occupied system. One command and space-time itself would unravel in those regions, erasing everything down to the subatomic level. No trace, no return. It must be done now, Kor rumbled. Before they finish whatever they are building in the core. But the Auriga is still out there, one delegate objected. Carabel and Luis Ortiz, they are observing, not interfering. They are in human space, Vrel said coldly. If the humans return, they will be the first infected. Better to lose 2 than risk the whole. The vote was not official. It was not recorded. But it was enough. Back on Xylos Prime, a young xenolinguist named Noah Patel worked late in the archives. He had been studying the farewell message from Daniel Hayes, playing it over and over. Something about the rhythm bothered him. It wasn't just speech, it was layered. Beneath the words, almost hidden, were frequencies that matched ancient human music, old Earth whale songs, even the pulse of neutron stars. He fed the data into a resonance mapper, cross-referencing with the harmonic signals Kara had reported. The result stunned him. When aligned, the tones formed a lattice, not in space but in time. Peaks and valleys corresponded to moments of human history. The first moon landing, the end of the last World War, the launch of the first interstellar probe. And at the center of it all, a single point far in the future, deep in the galactic core. Noah ran to the council chamber, breathless. "They didn't leave the galaxy," he cried. "They left time. They stepped into a structure outside linear existence. They're not gone, they're waiting in a place where past, present, and future are the same." But the chamber was empty. The emergency session had already ended. Unaware, Kara and Luis continued their journey. The Auriga followed the harmonic trail past the outer rim, toward the bright, swirling heart of the Milky Way. The signals grew stronger, clearer. They weren't just sounds, they carried emotion, wonder, peace, a kind of quiet joy. Luis adjusted the sensors. It's like they're humming a lullaby to the universe. Kara watched the stars blur into streaks as they neared light speed. "Do you think they're watching us?" Before Luis could answer, alarms blared. A priority burst transmission from Xylos Prime flooded their comms. It was coded urgent. Kara opened it. Her face went pale. "They activated Omega," she whispered. On every screen, countdown timers appeared. 10 minutes, 9, 8. The quantum detonators were priming across human space. Earth, Mars, Luna, Alpha Centauri, even the empty shipyards near Jupiter. In less than 10 minutes, those regions would be erased from reality. "No," Luis said, slamming his fist on the console. "They don't understand. Humans aren't there anymore." Kara tried to hail the council. No response. She tried to override the detonation sequence. Locked out, 7 minutes. She turned the Auriga hard, aiming for the nearest jump point. "We have to warn them." Stop it, but it was too late. Across the galaxy, the Omega Protocol fired. In Sol systems, space itself shuddered. Light bent inward. Planets flickered like candles in a storm. Earth vanished in a ripple of silent distortion. Mars dissolved into golden dust. The domes on Luna blinked out one by one. The half-built Odyssey at Alpha Centauri twisted into a knot of impossible geometry and was gone. The detonations left no explosion. No fire, just absence. Where human space had been, there was now a smooth, featureless void, as if those places had never existed. On Xylos Prime, Vrel watched the confirmation lights turn green on the Omega console. One by one, each system reported clean erasure. He exhaled. The threat was gone, but then the reports came back, no debris. No energy spikes. No signs of resistance, just nothing. Elira confronted him in the hallway. "You destroyed empty rooms," she said, voice trembling with anger. "You burned a house after the family had already moved out." Vrel said nothing. Far away, the Auriga emerged from fold space near the edge of the erased zone. Sensors showed only calm, empty space where Earth should have been. No distortion, no echo. Just stars where a sun once shone. Kara stared at the blank screen. They hit the button. she said softly. But the humans were already gone. Luis pulled up the last known harmonic signal. It still played, faint but steady, coming from the galactic core, unchanged, unharmed. Because Omega could erase space, but it could not touch time, and humanity was no longer bound by either. Back on Xylos Prime, Noah Patel stood alone in the archives, listening to the farewell message one last time. Now he understood. The humans hadn't fled. They had graduated. And the galaxy, with all its fear and buttons and protocols, was still in school. The countdown had ended, but the lesson had just begun. The Council hit the button too late. Humans were departed before it began, Part 4. Months passed after the Omega detonations. The void where human space once lived remained smooth and silent, like a scar healed too well. Most species avoided it. Some called it the quiet zone. Others whispered that it was cursed. But Carabelle could not stay away. She and Luis Ortiz returned to Sol System aboard the Auriga, not as scouts, but as mourners. Their orders from the Concordance had been cancelled. The Council was in chaos, its authority crumbling under the weight of its own mistake. No one stopped them from going back. No one cared. The ship drifted near where Earth should have been. Sensors showed nothing. No debris, no radiation, not even a gravitational echo. It was as if the planet had never formed. Yet Kara felt its absence like a missing tooth. She remembered the blue marble from her first approach, the lights of cities at night, the child's drawing on the nursery window. All of it gone, not destroyed, erased. Luis ran deep scans, hoping for anything. A hidden vault, a shielded fragment, a last message buried in the noise. For days they found nothing. Then, on the 7th orbit, the Auriga's chronoton sensors pinged. A faint anomaly tucked behind the orbit of the vanished Mars. Not matter, not energy. A bubble of distorted time. Kara guided the ship closer. The anomaly shimmered like heat over desert sand. It's shielded, Luis said, eyes wide, by something we don't have names for yet. They sent a probe. It vanished for 3 seconds, then returned with data. Inside the bubble was a small structure, human-made, orbiting nothing. A final archive. Wearing reinforced suits, they crossed the threshold. Inside, the air was still. Lights glowed softly. No dust, no decay. Time moved differently here, slower, as if the room refused to age. At the center of the chamber sat a single terminal. On its screen, words blinked gently, "For those who wonder." Kara touched the screen. A file opened. First came logs, personal messages. A mother singing a lullaby to her baby. A scientist describing the first successful test of the temporal lattice. A farmer on Mars writing about the taste of real strawberries grown in red soil. Then a final address. The face of a woman appeared. She looked tired but calm, with kind eyes and silver streaks in her dark hair. She wore a simple blue shirt, no uniform, no rank. "My name is Maya Ruiz," she said. "I led the Human Continuity Initiative. Not a military project, not a weapon, a promise." She explained that for decades humans had studied the fabric of time, not to control it but to understand their place in it. They discovered that consciousness was not bound to the body. That memory, love, thought, they could exist outside flesh woven into the quantum threads of the universe. "The galaxy is old," Maya said. "And lonely. Species rise, fight, fall. We did too. But we saw a different path. Not escape, evolution." She described the moment of departure. Not a panic, not a secret, a global choice. Every human, from newborns to elders, linked through a shared field of awareness. At the exact same second, they stepped out of linear time and into the lattice, a living network at the heart of the galaxy, where all moments exist at once. "We are not gods," Maya said, smiling faintly. "We are gardeners, waiting for others to see the soil beneath their feet." Then came the warning. "You will fear what you do not understand. You will press buttons in the dark, hoping to control the unknown. But destruction is not wisdom. Silence is not peace. We left this archive not to prove we were right, but to ask you to look deeper. The stars are not for conquering. They are for becoming." The file ended with a question. "Will you join us or keep pressing buttons in the dark?" Kara stood frozen. Tears rolled down her cheeks, silent in the low gravity. Luis wiped his eyes and whispered, "They didn't run. They invited, they copied everything. Every log, every song, every note. Then they left the archive, sealing it behind them. As the auriga pulled away, the time bubble faded, as if it had only existed to be found by those who truly sought understanding. Back on Xylos Prime, the council was breaking apart. The Zorath had withdrawn. The Cathari demanded Vrel's resignation. Public broadcasts across member worlds showed riots, protests, disbelief. How could they erase a civilization that had already transcended it? Noah Patel, the young xenolinguist, used his access to leak Maya's message. He sent it to every newsnet, every school, every private channel he could reach. At first, leaders tried to block it. But the word spread faster than fire. People listened. A child on Myron Prime asked her mother, "Can we go to the stars like humans did?" A Zorath soldier turned in his armor and walked away from his post. On a farming moon of Kethar, elders gathered and burned their war scrolls. The message did not bring answers. It brought questions. And questions, Maya had said, were the first step. Kara and Luis delivered the full archive to the Concordance's central data vault. They expected resistance. Instead, they found silence. The chamber was empty. The great seats sat vacant. The council, as it once was, no longer existed. In its place, small groups formed. Scientists, artists, pilots, teachers, beings from a dozen species met in open forums. They played Maya's message over and over. They studied the harmonic signals. They began to build something new. Not a government, but a promise. Kara resigned her commission. Luis left engineering. Together with Noah, they founded a group they called the Watchers. Their mission was simple: listen, learn, and wait. Not for war, not for return, but for the moment their own species might be ready to take the next step. They broadcast Maya's question across every system. Will you join us, or keep pressing buttons in the dark? Some laughed, some wept, some began to change. And in the quiet between stars, the harmonic pulses continued. Faint, steady, patient. Not a call. Not a command. Just a reminder that someone was waiting. Not ahead, not behind, but just outside the edge of now. Kara stood on the observation deck of their new station, watching the stars. She no longer feared the silence. She heard the song in it, and for the first time she hoped. The council hit the button too late. Humans were departed before it began, part 5 years past. The galaxy changed in quiet ways. The Galactic Concordance, once a rigid assembly of laws and protocols, faded into memory. In its place rose loose networks of thinkers, builders, and dreamers who called themselves the Watchers. They had no capital, no army, no council chamber. They met in orbiting gardens on desert moons, in the quiet halls of old research stations. Their only symbol was a single harmonic tone, the same one humans had left behind. Carabelle was older now. Her hair had streaks of gray and her hands moved slower, but her eyes still held the same sharp curiosity. She lived aboard a station called Haven, built from salvaged parts near the edge of the quiet zone. Luis Ortiz worked beside her, tending to the station's gardens and teaching young engineers how to listen to the stars, not just scan them. Noah Patel traveled often, carrying Maya Ruiz's message to new worlds, new species, new minds. No human ship ever returned. No voice broke the silence from the galactic core. But the pulses remained, faint, steady like a heartbeat in the dark. Some said they were echoes of a dead civilization. Others believed they were invitations, waiting for someone to answer not with weapons but with wonder. One evening, Kara stood at the main viewport of Haven, watching the stars. A young Myron girl named Lyra floated beside her, eyes wide. "Do you think they see us?" she asked. Kara smiled. "I think they see everything. Past, present, maybe even what we might become." Lyra tilted her head. "Then why don't they come back?" "Maybe they already did," Kara said softly. "Just not in a way we can touch." The truth was, humanity had not vanished. They had transformed. They existed now as part of a living lattice woven through time itself, not as rulers or saviors, but as witnesses. They did not interfere. They waited. Because true growth could not be given, it had to be chosen. On Xylos Prime, the old council chamber stood empty. Vines grew through its silver walls. Rain fell on the seats where delegates once argued over fear and control. But high on the inner wall, someone had placed a simple plaque. It bore no name, no title, just words carved in clean, plain script. They left before we could decide if they were monsters or gods. Perhaps the answer was both. Few visited the chamber now, but those who did often left with a new question in their hearts. Across the galaxy, change spread slowly. Wars still happened, but fewer. Species that once hoarded knowledge now shared it freely. Children learned not just how to build ships, but how to ask why. The Omega Protocol was dismantled. Its components melted down and turned into art. Sculptures of open hands, of rising birds, of stars with no borders. The Watchers did not lead this change. They simply reminded others that another way was possible. They played Maya's message in schools. They taught the harmonic tones as lullabies. They encouraged silence not as emptiness but as space for listening. One day sensors on Haven picked up something new. Not a pulse, not a signal, a pattern. Deep in the galactic core, the harmonic tones had shifted. They now formed a sequence that matched the rhythm of human breathing. Inhale, exhale, calm and steady. Luis studied the data for hours. It's not random, he told Kara. It's synchronized with the orb. It'll cycles of 1,000 worlds, as if they're breathing with us. Kara felt a chill that was not cold. They're not waiting for us to find them, she realized. They're reminding us we're already part of something bigger. That night, the Watchers gathered on Haven's observation deck. Beings from 12 species stood together in silence, watching the stars. No speeches, no plans, just presence. And then, for the first time in years, a new signal came. Not from the core, not from human space, from everywhere. Every abandoned station, every quiet moon, every empty city that had once belonged to humans began to hum the same tone. Not loud, not demanding. Just there, like a memory waking up. On Mars, the wheat in the agridome swayed without wind. On Luna, the music box in the nursery played its lullaby one last time. In Geneva Orbital, the child's drawing of stick figures under a star glowed faintly, then faded into light. It was not a return. It was a farewell within a farewell, a final release. The last traces of human physical presence were dissolving, not into nothing but into the song itself. Kara closed her eyes and listened. She heard Earth's oceans, Mars's dust storms, the laughter of children who had stepped into time long ago. She heard Daniel Hayes's tired voice. She heard Maya's quiet hope, and beneath it all a single truth. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy. They had become its quiet pulse. Years later, when Kara was very old, she sat with Lyra, now a young scientist, on the same observation deck. The stars looked the same, but everything had changed. "Do you think we'll ever join them?" Lyra asked. Kara took her hand. "Maybe not in our lifetimes. But someone will. And when they do, they won't need ships or buttons or fear. They'll just need to be ready to let go." She looked out at the endless dark, not with sadness, but peace. The galaxy was no longer a place to control. It was a place to belong. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, humanity waited, not as ghosts, not as gods, but as friends who had simply walked a little farther down the path. The silence was not empty. It was full of stars.